You're listening to Crushing Club Marketing, a podcast for progressive club leaders ready to increase their club's revenue. The time for change begins right now.
The power of video as a marketing tool has grown exponentially over the past decade and has become an extremely effective tool for clubs to share their story. But before you start worrying about budget restraints or your team's ability to produce video, you'll want to hear from today's Crushing Club Marketing guest, Jason Chow. He's one of the creators of Animoto, an easy web-based video creation service for those who lack video production experience but want to create professional-looking videos. In this episode, he'll share with you ways to leverage your club's current resources to start cranking out more video content.
Jason, thanks so much for being with us today. And this is a great opportunity for us and for people who are listening. We've recorded this at HubSpot, their annual inbound conference, and here in Boston. But thanks for being with us.
Of course. Thanks, Ed. This is a real privilege.
So let's start out with Animoto. For people who are listening today who don't know what Animoto is, what is Animoto?
So basically, our world is about empowering folks with the power of video. It's a video making tool, of super simple drag and drop video making tool based on building blocks. And one of the best parts is we have a whole catalog, a whole collection of starter templates that we call storyboards. So you can go in and choose whatever type of video suits your business and just open it up, drag and drop your content in, and you have a great video in a few minutes. And the thing that we're specifically focused on is great video that helps you stand out on social media.
Wow. So what year did you start Animoto?
So we're about 10 years into this. We have like 100 folks in New York City, and we just started living, breathing, sleeping, all things video.
It's so visionary. I mean, really, 10 years ago, video looked very different than it does today.
Absolutely. That was like no iPhone, right? 10 years ago. MySpace was like
yeah, that was it.
And but I think what we saw. So my co-founder and I, we were actually working in TV and film, as you mentioned, and we kind of saw how fast everything was changing, and like these phone things, right, getting smaller and smaller, like to the point that you could fit them in your pocket. It just seemed inevitable that maybe one day they would have like internet connection and maybe even a camera on them, and cloud computing and social media, like all this stuff. It just seemed inevitable that not only was everything going to change quickly, but video had to be kind of much more front and center in everyone's life. And as guys, that our whole lives we've always just really believed in the power and the magic of video, and how we believe that video is the most compelling and effective way to communicate what's important. We were just like, we could not stop thinking about how things could be. So we quit our jobs and started Animoto 10 years ago. So
it's interesting. So if you go back to say 2008, 8-ish is when you guys started. So YouTube was just getting some steam, and people were starting to use that.
Yep.
What was your vision? What it is today, though, and I ask this in the context, if you're listening, like, okay, we're not going to talk about Animoto the whole time today, although it's a great tool. There is some context with how it's changed, but was your vision back then what it is? Did you see this today?
No, we've certainly gone through some evolutions. I think where we have gotten, I'll say lucky / smart. It's probably more luck. Is that though maybe the all the various social platforms have kind of changed over the years, and whatever was popular 5 years ago or 4 years ago, 3 years, everything keeps changing. The constant has been the growth of video, right? So I think that's where we have a lot of confidence in what we're doing. Is I know especially business owners, right? They're like head spin. We're like, wait, but you told me 3 years ago it's all about Pinterest and YouTube, and then last year you said we have to learn Snapchat and Twitter, and this year it's all about Instagram. You're about to pull your hair out. But investing in knowing how to communicate with video with your audience is something that is only going to grow in importance, and it's because we're seeing that's how people prefer to really consume a lot of their content and information. So we as business folks, we need to learn to communicate in a way that people want that information, and increasingly that's video. So I think that's despite all the ups and downs, and we we can name off MySpace and all this
Right.
other crazy stuff that's changed over the years. Video, as we've seen, is just still kind of exploding, right? We see video everywhere.
Yeah, it's so interesting. To your point, we for years, I remember like 2013 was going to be the year of video, and people were saying, "Oh, this is a year of video." And as a video production company, as a producer, I'm like, "Oh, sweet."
Yeah.
And 13 is like, well, it isn't really what we thought it was going to be, but it was growing in these different ways.
Yeah.
You have created a company that has made producing video very simple and very easy, which is a huge barrier for a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast and the people in the private club industry.
Yep.
I'd like to come back to that, how Animoto does that in a few minutes. But let's talk a little bit about content, because as a producer, before you started Animoto, you were in the business of producing content that people cared about.
Yep.
So often in the club industry, there are great stories around the member stories, employee stories. As you and I were talking before we started the recording, all the visual assets are there, but so often people have a hard time just figuring out like what to take video of.
Yep.
What are your thoughts when you hear that, and what would you recommend to club marketers or general managers who are sitting there going, okay, I love the idea of video, but do we just start shooting stuff, and is that what we should do?
Yep. I think probably that the thing I've heard most, right, is like from business owners, from marketers, from general managers, they're just like, like we're still trying to figure out, SEO and email. They're wearing like 20 different hats, and they're like, now you're saying I have to learn video, and it's like, well, where should that be on the priority list of my 10,000 marketing things to do?
For sure.
But really, what I like to impress upon folks is video is not actually a whole new type of marketing. It's a way to actually amplify whatever it is that already works. And the amazing thing about the club business is there are so many things that already work that you probably already have, right? You already have great visuals, whether it's photos or video clips from some event or something. You already have, great people that are not only interesting but have great stories. And you already know, probably have some sense of what makes you different because you've had to message that, that story a lot of times. So you already are sitting on a lot of stuff that works, whether it's, visual marketing material or stories or information about your business, your club that you get asked all the time. So all of that is perfect fodder for getting started. So I think a lot of anxiety with video is like, I don't even know where to get started. I don't have any experience. You actually do. You have all the stories, you have all the visual content, and now it's just about putting that into a video. So I like to say video is a way to amplify what already works for you. So think about all the things that you already have or that already works, and turning them into little bite-sized videos to get started.
And it sounds so simple. Like when I hear you talk about it, and I'm sure people are going, yeah, okay, I get that. I'm still not totally sure how you do that. So let's dive into that just a little bit deeper to maybe frame that up for some folks. You said something really interesting in there that I am a huge believer of, as well as is something around the questions that people ask you.
Yep.
It's like your FAQs that you get as a club GM or a marketer or membership director or catering director at a club. People always ask you the same things. And it's like, tell me about, let's just say it's a wedding. How big is your facility? Yep. What are the possibilities with the space? What can I do? If it's a membership, it's like, gosh, I'd like to meet some of your members, or I'd like to get to know them a little bit better. Video is such a powerful tool for that, because you can take people there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be super fancy, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, especially in the club business, right? There's so much about trying to explain how you are different or unique. How much easier is that to do, with visuals than, in words, right? So I think, that notion of starting with what works, but also thinking about those stories or those, questions that you're having to answer all the time, right? So you think about some of the basic videos you should have. Perhaps to get started. There's like, well, so tell me about what is your club about? What do you actually offer? What are the services or the, the offerings that your club has, or so how are you guys different, or that's probably something you have to answer all the time, or what are all the other questions that you guys answer all the time. And a great benefit of video is, not only does that video then go to work for you, it saves you time. Think about how many times you've had to say those things, or people on your team have to say those things or answer those questions all the time. Invest in, a great video that answers some of those things, and let the video do the work for you.
Yeah, it's experiential part of a club. It's almost like when people are considering a private club, they want to know, what does it look like, right? I mean, it's almost like it's like dating in a lot of ways.
Yep.
It's like, I want to see what you look
Yep.
like.
It is.
So
That's a
a
great
lot of
analogy,
video
yep.
content about
Yep.
just facilities. What does that look like? And by the way, what's your thought on, I think sometimes people get hung up on the whole idea of like, well, does someone narrate that? Do we have to have someone? But pictures alone can speak volumes.
Yep. So I think maybe one misconception is to do a video, people have to go on and shoot a bunch of stuff to get started. Certainly, if you want to invest in some great videos, which you should, you can eventually. But to get started, like I said, you probably already have some great photos that you have of your facilities that you can put into a video, and you don't even need to narrate it. You don't even need to be in the video. I hear a lot of folks that are just anxious about being on camera. You don't have to show. You let your club speak for itself. You can put whatever information in text with some music behind it. You can narrate it over the video if you want to, but more and more actually folks are on their mobile devices, so it actually helps to have text in the video. But of course, if you can put yourself in the video, that's also great too. That just putting that human kind of element to really differentiate yourself, like, oh, these are the folks behind.
Yeah, and it's almost like really knowing
can go a long
when
way, so.
when to do that as well. One of my favorite websites out there for that's a golf club is Bandon Dunes, which is in Oregon, and it's a public facility, but the homepage is just a video. And it's playing on. The last time I checked, I haven't looked at it in a little while, but the last time I looked at it, it's a shot of one of the greens, and you can see the wind blowing, the waves crashing onto the shore, and then you just see a couple golfers walk up. There's not even music. It's just see the golfers walk up, and they do this visually. They do this incredible job of like creating longing. Like I watch it, and I'm like, I gotta go there. Because visually it just takes you there.
Yeah.
In that way. So so given that, I mean, going back to the analogy of dating, so the videos that even just showcase your property, your club in some way, so people, like you said, using photos, things like that. Let's talk about the power of like testimonial videos, because that's really getting to know. I think that one of the big fears, Jason, for so many people considering joining a club is, am I going to fit in? Is this the right place? So testimonial videos, maybe even meeting staff in those ways. Have you? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that whole human element in many different ways is so important in today's, because if you think about in today's day and age, especially, it's just kind of information overload. So when you can figure out how to bring that extra level of authenticity, right, by bringing the people that make up your whole club experience. Including the clientele, the staff, the whole team there, the management. That really kind of, I think, establishes some sense of not just authenticity, but trust, right? And there's this great quote, I forget who says it, but he says something like, if people like you, they'll listen to you. If they trust you, they'll do business with you. And if you think about, especially when you're asking someone for not just to buy a one-off thing like a Coke can, right? That's a relatively low commitment. But like dating, a membership is like getting into a relationship with someone. So that level of authenticity and trust is 10 times more, 100 times more important than, right, like buying a can of Coke. So to the point of featuring, especially testimonials, right? There's nothing more authentic than hearing a fellow, client or customer talking about what it's like to be a member there, right? Because I feel like more and more people actually distrust anything that like a sales or marketing person might say. If you hear a customer, and you're kind of getting that added benefit of like, oh, and by the way, this is the type of people that we have here. So you can think about not just finding folks that have will enthusiastically, talk about your club, but you think about who do you want to showcase to really represent
Yeah, almost that
who your
ability to
clientele is
say
made up
we
of.
want to. I mean, this is might sound a little exclusive, but it is that idea of like we want more people that look like these people, or that would represent, maybe not
Yeah,
physically look like, but people maybe even
yeah,
who say,
yeah,
"Gosh, I didn't ever think I'd be the kind of person who would join a club," and they're they're speaking about this, so not that canned.
yeah. And it's also a bit aspirational too. So incorporate whatever that element is, whether it's the taking you away someplace that that just takes you away from the real world, whatever that kind of that
Yeah,
aspiration or that dream or that environment that you're trying to create. That's also part of
absolutely.
the value of your right. So capturing that. So I like to say, whatever it is that's in your video is actually a reflection of your brand. So it's not just so thinking about the people that you include, thinking about the content, whatever the message or the story that you're telling, but also even where it's shot. Like if you
Right.
shoot it in a management office, that's probably not very aspirational, interesting. If it's if it's at a golf, shoot it out on the most beautiful green. Or if it's if you have an amazing cafe or restaurant, shoot it there, or whatever facilities that really kind of showcase the whole experience. So yeah, every element, the music, the text, the message, the story, all of that is part of is an extension of your brand and the experience
So
that
to that
you're
end, let's
that you're
talk. I mean,
offering.
you talk about shooting and locations and things like that, and I know a lot of times for people,
Yeah.
they don't know and they get scared and they're nervous. Like, well, geez, is this a good place? Should we? Or one of the famous ones is, hey, we'll shoot it in our dining room that overlooks the 18th green, and they don't have the right lighting, and so you can see the green, but you can't see the person. You get the silhouette. What do people? What do you
Yep.
recommend to people who are trying to learn how to shoot? Like, let's just say a testimonial. It's like, I don't know, what do I do? I just sit them there and I put a mic on them. I mean, like, what do you recommend for people who are just trying to, especially as a former producer? I mean, my gosh.
Yeah. Well, I think what I was saying about start with what you already have. You don't have to go and go shoot anything original to start. Take some photos. You don't even need photos. If it's like top 3 things we get asked, that text can actually be made a video and put up on social media. The nice thing about social media is it's much more forgiving in terms of you can just try stuff, see how it does, and not worry about if it's like perfect. Not in fact, part of the charm of social media is people actually don't necessarily
Right.
expect it to be perfect. They like that authenticity, right? Just kind of embracing whatever imperfections. You don't need fancy equipment to get started, especially on social media. You could take a testimonial with your, with the phone in your pocket. It's just as good as a lot of cameras these days. I think once you start to see the impact of video and how, I mean, you will hear people that, oh, I saw your video. Once you start to be convinced of the, its effectiveness, then I think at points that will be, you'll be ready, you'll be convinced to, maybe make that extra investment in shooting that slightly nicer video, or that video that should go on the homepage of your, website. But I wouldn't start with the end all be all. Actually, one thing I like to remind folks is video. Don't think of video as this one-off item on your marketing checklist, right? It's not just, oh, I have a video on my website, I'm done. It's a form of communication. So to the extent that you can, be regularly creating these just short, bite-sized videos, putting them out on social media. Hey, we had this event last night. Here's a quick, 20-second recap. Or, hey, we'd love to feature, some of our newest members, or welcome, or whatever it is that's kind of happening. Or we'd love to announce the opening of this new facility that we've been renovating for the last 2 years. Whatever it is that's newsworthy or interesting, use video as a regular form of communication. And yeah, of course, that all important about us video or about our club. Let's invest time in making that super nice. But in terms of all the other content of just updating folks,
Yeah.
announcements, testimonials, just showing people some behind the scenes, or that story of that backstory of maybe a new part of the facility, or even why you started the business. Like, all those are just great fodder
Yeah,
for
and it gives people
just
that sort of
getting out there and doing
behind the
it.
scenes perspective as well. And that idea, I'm so glad you said this, Jason, because so many people think about video like we produced our video, we're done. We never have to do this again. And like you're saying, yeah, I mean, if you can think of it more in this conversation way, what a great way to approach that medium. Which leads me to the and the other thing I just wanted to touch on, it reminded me of this old thing. I have a friend, he's a longtime friend of mine, he's a little bit older than I am, and he's a collector of art. And I don't know jack about art, and so I always say, geez, Frank, where do I start? And he'd just say, just try things, but don't you don't have to go and spend a bunch of money and get it right the first time. Just try it. In a similar way, it's like, don't try to hit a home run with that first video that you're shooting with your iPhone. And photos are a great way. It's such a great.
Yeah, you can we can work your way up to that. I think sometimes, folks think that video is this highly, you have to bring in
it can
all the
be
crews and everything.
Yeah.
A slideshow, it can be, but I think you'll know when it's worth investing. A slideshow video is actually a video, right? And part of
like
what
moving pictures,
anything moving really, like moving pictures is actually video, and it's important because it does capture people's attention. People have shorter, so anything moving does capture, but. And on social media, they all favor video content, so it actually the results are there too. So, but yeah, photos and text can make great videos to start.
Looking for a crash course on everything you need to know to market your club online? We've created a 30-page essential guide to digital marketing for private clubs that you don't want to miss. From optimizing your website and developing relevant content to engaging your audience through social media, this comprehensive guide will lead you through every essential step you want to be taking to effectively market your club online. Download it now at storytellermn.com/guide.
If you're wondering, if you're listening, yes, you're allowed to use photos and text for your videos and use them in social media, which brings me to the social media, some questions around that, Jason, because it seems like, man, I find myself watching more video on my social channels through Instagram and Facebook, and not so much because I'm really intrigued by the advertising. Like I'm one of these people I don't really like the idea of advertising taking over social media.
Yep.
And yet I bought a couple things online on Facebook because the video that they have, and again, like you're saying, moving pictures, these aren't like well crafted, but they are well produced, and people have given some great thought. Tell me about what you see in social video, where it's come from, where you think it's going, and how do you produce really effective social videos, do you think?
So it's super, especially for smaller businesses. This whole world of social media is really turning things upside down and offering businesses, small businesses especially, like a huge opportunity. Because if you think about, the ability to be seen, your video to be seen in a Facebook feed or Instagram feed next to like some international, powerhouse that has hundreds of millions of dollars spent. That's like crazy. Back in the day of TV, I say that like TV doesn't exist, but that opportunity doesn't exist. In TV, there's no way a small business in Wisconsin would be able to have a commercial next to whatever Coca-Cola on TV.
Right.
So and part of what's happening on social media too is it's where word of mouth is happening. So if you think, especially I think in the club business, there's a huge amount of importance put on word of mouth because of that, that authenticity and that trust factor, right? So because you're getting into a relationship, right? So word of mouth is happening more and more on social media. And it's also interesting, like the first place that increasingly more and more people are going to check out something they hear about for their first time. So, if you just ask, colleagues or friends or people you work with, when you hear about a company, you want to know what's happening or find out more about them, how many of them are actually going to that company's website versus first checking on social media? So more and more, like we're seeing and hearing that people are going to social media to really find out more about, what's happening with these companies. So social media, just for a number of reasons, we kind of like to say, you no longer have to kind of hope and wait and hope that people discover you. You have a chance to actually take your message to where the conversation is already happening, which is on social media.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that if they're already following you, they care about your world. If they like your content, they're sharing it for you. But because of the ability that social media has to target very specific people and interests and demographics and everything, there is such a higher probability today, more than any other time in marketing, to make sure that your message and your content is getting in front of people who actually care about it.
Yeah.
So that's just what makes it so powerful and so highly efficient, right? It's so that your video or whatever content you're putting out there on social media is being put in front of people that will care about your world. So
yeah, it's interesting that you talk about the ability to target your audience, and if you're a club, at your club, if you are using Facebook ads, and I know a lot of you don't like to use Facebook ads to drive membership because there's some brand concerns and brand integrity. There are a number of clubs that will buy Facebook ads for weddings, for catering events, and just to say, hey, we're available for these things. And boy, the ability to target those audiences on Facebook is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, and Facebook, which owns Instagram, so any kind of targeting on Facebook and Instagram, we're just seeing so much business having so much success with, because you can get very precise with interests or demographics or other people they might follow, right? So you can get pretty specific about making sure that the right people see your content, and you don't actually have to spend that much to even see how it does. You could start with $5, $10, and see how it does. So it's not like you have to pony up $10,000 to figure out how
it really cheap.
Yep. So
yeah. I back just a little bit more on the social video stuff, because I find you see this more than I do with Animoto and your work, but like I've always looked at video as from the storytelling perspective, and can you produce something where you can actually take the audience and put them into that story, so creating the empathy,
Yep.
And yet when I'm looking at some of the video now on social media, they do this great job of presenting, most of it's product, I will say, of creating a product that makes you go, oh, that's really cool. And it's that what do you call it, that what's it called, stop photography or whatever.
Oh, stop motion. Yeah.
Stop motion.
Yeah.
So you basically can put books in a backpack, and watch it,
cool.
and that sort of thing. Like there's this one travel backpack that I always get ads for, and I swear I've seen this thing about 10 times, Jason, and I watch it every time because I'm like, man, that looks really cool, and I start to put myself into that. Like, I wonder if that would, if my CPAP would fit in it or whatever.
Yeah.
What is that? From a production standpoint. Is there anything that you see in that the producers are doing that
Absolutely. So I think the best, the most useful tip I can give is, whether this is video or any kind of content as part of your marketing efforts, is to remember that there are, out in the world, there are left brain and right brain oriented people, but actually everyone uses both sides of their brain in their in their journey of deciding whether they want to buy something. And so typically everyone loves that kind of more, I'll call it the emotional content or the storytelling content, especially if you're thinking about, do I want to enter into this relationship with this club? It's about, well, what is this experience that I'm buying into? What is this? How does it make me feel?
Yeah, connect.
Am I really connecting kind of on an emotional level with this? So that certainly is a part of a relationship or a decision of whether to purchase something. But then like there are also the left brain side of things, which is like sometimes you just need the information, right?
Right.
So what hours are you open? What days are you available? How many
just super practical stuff,
right? How many eating facilities do you have?
Yeah.
What square feet? Or if it's a golf club, how many holes do you have?
Yeah.
So just all that practical information is also helpful. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's like, storytelling video, but
Right.
that is content that is super useful and interesting. So,
and that's really what it's about. I mean, in the end, it's about useful and interesting,
Yep.
not promotional and salesy, and which we've been talking
exactly.
about. I'd love to talk a little bit about Animoto, and
Sure.
really, and I say that, and if you listen to the podcast, you know that we don't do this a lot, but because of what Animoto is, and having Jason here, and how easy Animoto is to use. I think that some of you who are listening could really find this beneficial. So let's just take a few minutes to go through this, because I'd love for you to share with our listeners how Animoto works.
So I think that the most important place to start is just how we're just seeing now, and it's not just Animoto. There's been so many studies and tests, especially in the last few years, about how when you start including video in your marketing efforts, like the results are just amazing, right? There's one stat I love, which is something like people remember 3 times more the information from video than from text. Or after seeing a video, something like 67% of people, 67% more people make a purchase decision, after seeing a video. So there's just all sorts of stats like that. But the bottom line, right, is that it just increasingly this is how people want to consume information. It's such a multi kind of dimensional. It's visual, it's audio, it's tech. It's text, it's music. There's just so many different elements at play. It's just the most compelling way to really communicate what's important. So where we enter is what we hear from everyone is that I see video. Okay, I see video everywhere. I know I should be doing video.
It's your video.
I say video. If you're not doing video, you're
right.
missing out on the biggest. Okay, so I get it, right? But listen, I don't have the time. I have 20 other bazillion things going on to run my business. I don't have any expertise. Oh, and by the way, I don't have like $100,000 marketing budget like some of these other big companies. So that's kind of the world that we're trying to play. Is just like, how can we get these folks seeing the value of video in a simple way? How can we take all that effort and anxiety and cost and time out of the equation and just get them started making their first few videos, right? So
yeah. So I just want to get really nitty gritty.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use Animoto, if
Yep.
you're a club marketer, you're like, all right, that's cool. I've got 1 million pictures.
Yep.
We have this short little video clip from the swim championships.
Yep.
We want to show the Johnsons, kid who won state meet last year, and he's there too. And we've got a great video of him. But I don't know how to put this all together. I know, I don't know how to edit and what software platform. You go to Animoto. And you
literally have to have no experience ever having made any video.
So what do I do?
You open it up, and if you start with a storyboard, or even if you start with just start from a new video, it's based on this idea of kind of like building blocks, right?
Sure.
So a video might have 4 or 5 or 6 building blocks. One of the blocks might be a photo or a collage of photos, maybe 2 photos next to each other, or a block might be some text. Or you could put text on the photos, or you can insert, a couple of video clips, 3 seconds, 4 seconds of something. At the end, one of the blocks, you could use the logo block, so to make sure to get your logo in there, or your website information. And that's it, right?
It's drag and drop, right?
Literally just drag and drop, right? And you can move the blocks around, you can add more or less. And so it's actually kind of like, in some ways, like a toy, in that there's no way to actually screw it up. There's no way to produce a failed video with Animoto, because it's just like building blocks. You just move them around and it just works.
Yeah.
And so we just try to take all the complicated editing stuff out of it, and we just let you focus on just getting your message, getting your content in there. So whether you have 1 photo or 5 photos or 100 photos and a video clip, or no photos, and you just have a few, text things and maybe your logo, you can kind of make whatever combination video you want, and it's that simple.
So what if you have a clip of video that's like, all right, it's going to be the winning putt from the club championship, and John, our intern who shot the video, shot way too much. We only need the last 30 seconds, but he has a 5-minute clip.
Yep.
Do I drag and drop that whole thing in, and then how?
Yeah, you can upload that, and then you can just within the tool just trim
it.
Yep. And if you want to just if you want to take like a few sections from it, you can actually just duplicate that block and then just kind of move the sliders over, and maybe like 3 seconds here, 3 seconds there, because you probably don't need 30 seconds of it. You just get a few seconds here and just kind of string it all together. So yeah, super simple. No timelines, none of this crazy layers or anything. It's about as simple as you could get with no video experience.
So I've got to believe that if you're listening and you are so many club marketers that we talk to, and that you're probably listening, you're going, okay, I can drag and drop. I can do this up pretty easy. So powerful too with social and being able to just do it quickly too, isn't it? Just grabbing that moment or whatever that is and popping it up there.
Yep. And if you literally still have no ideas about where to start, again, that whole collection of starter templates that we call. You can just scroll right through them and be like, oh yeah, I could use something like that. Like a top 5 reasons to whatever, or a announcement, or a event recap. Open one of those up, just drag your content in, and you're off to the races.
And do you guys have licensed music? Because that
yes,
always comes
actually,
up too.
So we not only have a whole catalog of real music. This is not like crappy stock music that I used to use back in my MTV days. Real music that we've done all the work to license for you, so you don't have to worry about. And you can use whatever you want. You can put it on your website, on social media. You can put it, if you go to conferences or trade shows, you can use the music however you want. So we've taken all that headache out. Use whatever music you want. And we just, like, this is like fresh news. We actually have a whole partnership with Getty. So if you want to include, if you don't have some stuff you need of like whatever beautiful shot of, whatever it is, photos and video clips from Getty are also available, all included, right?
So, that is huge. I mean, and I say that now, especially as a content person, who has gotten those letters from people who are like, hey man, you owe $700 for using that image in the blog.
Yeah.
If that's ever happened to you, then you know what a huge pain that is.
Yeah, that stuff can add up. Music rights and all the stock stuff can get pretty expensive. So we like to think we're adding a lot of that. We just want to make it as super simple for you as you don't need to deal with all that. You have plenty of other things you need to do to run your business. So.
Yeah. I want to wrap up in a second and let you get on with your day here.
Yeah.
But I do want to just because I feel like it's one of those things that gets overlooked, and you touched on it earlier, and it's not about video. Well, it is about video, but it's not about taking pictures and taking video. It's about music. Mm-hmm. And how music, we all know this, and we know it from watching movies, and we know it from watching other videos, but picking that right song or that right whatever melody, beat, it could be, whatever that is so critical. Why is that so critical? I mean, it's like you can ruin a piece with the wrong music.
Absolutely, yeah. I can tell I'm talking to someone who's experienced with it. It's amazing. I mean, music is basically the reason it's important is it's a reflection of your brand, right? So it's not just picking a piece that you like, or that you think like might go well with. It's actually picking a piece that you think is a reflection of your club, your brand, your business, everything, right? So again, this is as someone who is thinking about entering into a relationship with you, about becoming a member of your club. They want to know, what is this world? What is this experience I'm entering into? And music is even if you're not actually playing music at your club, it helps sell that, that aspirational kind of vision or kind of experience that you're trying to kind of capture in people's minds. So, if it's more energetic, pick. If it's more progressive, if it's more supposed to be calm and relaxing, pick something more classical. Whatever it is that you feel like captures the essence of of your of the value you're trying to deliver.
It's almost like, to me, I think of it, Jason, sometimes it's like, how does that image feel? And it reflects in the music, or how does whatever, whether it's a video clip of video or whether it's a picture, it's like, what does that feel like?
Yep.
And one of the common mistakes I see is like someone the end of the year swim banquet video, which is a total Animoto type piece that everyone should just take your images from all the people, throw it in there, add some music, right? But they'll add like 80s hair band music because the head coach liked that music, but it doesn't go with any of the images. It's like, and it really is trying to find that song that just fits the images that you're seeing.
Yep. I think here's some maybe practical homework for if you can't figure out this music piece, is think about if you don't already have some sense of exactly what your brand is, think about how do you want your clientele, your members, to feel or talk about their experience, at your club. What are those adjectives, right? So is it supposed to be, relaxing, just, like kind of like a getaway or on vacation, or is it family friendly, fun, or is it competitive, or is it whatever those adjectives are? Try to really capture that, what you want people saying about the experience of being at your club, and then take that as you listen to music. Try to use those same adjectives, like what music really kind of captures, some of those descriptions. So that's kind of one way to kind of reverse your way into finding the right music. But It's really important. Like, more often than not, picking the wrong music can actually ruin a video.
Oh yeah. That's what I always think is like, production quality doesn't. I mean, some production it can matter depending on what you're doing, but the only thing that matters is don't make your production quality so bad it's a distraction from the content. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And a trick is, as we know, working in TV and film, right? Actually, putting in good music can actually make up for less than perfect visuals, right? So it doesn't have to be the most beautifully shot. I mean, look at like some of these old school documentaries where it's real shaky old school footage. Yeah. You put some music under it, it actually can make it feel professional, right? So that's kind of one of the tricks of the trade, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yep.
Jason, thanks so much for your time today, and this has been a great discussion. Hopefully for you listening, it's been helpful as well, but thanks so much, and best of luck with Animoto.
Thank you so much. This has been a real privilege, and it's been really fun talking about video.
So one more thing, Jason, before we let you go, where can people learn more about Animoto?
Well, of course, there's Animoto.com, but what I thought I'd do, since there was so much that we covered, is I'll set up a specific page that people can go to. I'll set up Animoto.com/club marketing, and I'll put some helpful links of some of the stuff that we've talked about. I'll put my contact info, so if anyone has any questions, I love talking to businesses and business owners, and so anything, whether you're just getting started with video or you're trying to figure out how to take things to the next level, I'm happy to chat with you. So yeah, I'll set up Animoto.com/club marketing, and hopefully that'll be useful for you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Crushing Club Marketing. Next up, we'll chat with John Eric Senni from HubSpot and an expert in CRMs, or customer relationship management tools. He'll share insight on what to look for in a CRM tool and how to best store member information, potential leads, and much more when it comes to organizing and maintaining important club relationships.